Hello. How's everything?
How are you?
Good. Enjoying this GALentines Day.
Absolutely. I am super excited for the conversation that's going to happen in just a little bit. Um, it's so important to have those girlfriends, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, listen, we are sorority sisters. We sit on a foundation together, but we're friends too. And I'll tell you, those friendships get you through.
They
So,
truly do. And we're super fortunate to have that. I think that, during those low periods, and it's a different conversation than it is with men, right? It's
mhm.
totally different.
Absolutely. It's funny. I have a lot of my very long-term dear friends logging in today, and it was just like, it's really cool to say, come and let's talk about our friendships, because some of these friendships have been, I hate to tell my age, but really since 30 plus years. So it's amazing that we can sustain that level of friendship. And I have one girlfriend who we don't talk all the time, but when she called the other day, like it was like we never missed each other, and we just picked right up. And that's something. It's a relationship you just can't replace.
You absolutely can't. You mentioned you had friends you told them to log on. So we want everyone to take a moment, take out your phone, take out your tablet, get your device. We're watching the numbers come in. More and more people are logging on. And there's two spaces that you're fortunate enough to watch from today. And Jen and I represent both of those spaces. So the first is the Omicron Upsilon Omega Facebook page. You can watch us there. As soon as you share, your friends can watch it from their pages. And Jen will also watch the Cultured Pearl Foundation Inc. All of
Yes.
that. But if you start Google, put it in the search bar on Facebook, the Cultured Pearl Foundation Inc. You can find us there. We want you to watch from both sites. Please share and really get that great information out there for your friends. So I'm seeing folks come in, Jen. It looks like they want to sign up before they go to the Super Bowl. So
That's right.
as folks are coming in, we want to know where you are coming in from. Because it is virtual and we are on this platform, drop in the chat where you're coming from. And then also drop in the chat, what do you want to gain from today's chat and conversation? And then I'm gonna we'll shout out some of those, and make sure you tell us where you're from, and we'll shout you out, and then we'll get started.
Right. And really, also, we have a really exciting thing coming up. If you go to armchairchat.com, www.armchairchat.com, you can register and you will be able to win our grand prize today. We're having a drawing for a $150 spa card, which can be used throughout the country, a spa finders card. So if you deserve that, well, first of all, we know you deserve it, but if you want to go ahead and get a massage or facial or whatever and pamper yourself for a day, then this will let you do it. So, if you're just watching on Facebook Live, but you haven't registered, you still have time. Go over to www.armchairchat.com, drop in your registration, and let's see if you win.
All right, I need that spa package bad. But I guess I can't register to win. I want to shout out a few folks. We have Connecticut checking in Norwalk. We have Lake Charles, Louisiana checking in. And we also have Laurel, Maryland checking in. So thank you everyone for checking in. Looks like some New York, some Georgia folks here. Shout out to Dr. Ross from one of your classmates. I don't know if you see that dropping in the chat. So in Savannah, Georgia as well. So what I'm going to do is, Jen, I'm going to turn it over. No need to belabor this. Everyone who's checking in, please share and share and share. And I'll step off, and you all have a wonderful, wonderful program. Don't forget to register. Have a good one.
Thank you, Lisa. So, hello and welcome to our GALentines Day event. Thank you so much for signing on today. My name is Jen Distance, and I am the president of the Culture Pearl Foundation, Inc. We are a nonprofit organization which is devoted to community outreach. We are based in Stamford, Connecticut, and we provide outreach to the entire Fairfield County, Connecticut community. We provide scholarships, educational, cultural, and health-related activities. We also provide charitable assistance to students, senior citizens, women and girls, small businesses, and other underserved, underrepresented, and underprivileged community members. I invite you to learn more about us at www.theculturedpearlfoundation.org. Again, that's www.theculturedpearlfoundation.org. So, as we mentioned a little earlier, if you're on Facebook Live but you have not registered, please do so on www.armchairchat.com, because you can win a $150 gift card from Spa Finders, which will allow you a treat and to be able to enjoy a nice spa day on us. So please drop that in. Now, some of you may have attended our GALentines Day event in person in February of 2020. We had a spectacular celebration of womanhood. It was a room full of pink and green decor, a fantastic spread of food, mounds of sweet treats, and we even had a wine tasting. So it was just wonderful. We hugged, we laughed, and we celebrated ourselves as women with diverse backgrounds and cultures who reflected all aspects of the African diaspora. And in that fun day, we did take time to hear from numerous doctors who explained our rights within the healthcare system and the many things we can do to improve and maintain our physical and mental health. Although we've been a bit restricted since 2020 in terms of gathering, we really didn't want to let another year go by without celebrating and educating our women. Last year, we launched an online series called an Armchair Chat. An armchair chat is a safe and comfortable space where you curl up in your armchair next to your most trusted friend and talk life out. It's a place where you can speak freely and be honest and be heard. Our first armchair chat discussed the truth versus the myths of the COVID-19 vaccine, and we dealt head on with the legitimate feelings of distrust that African Americans often have within the healthcare system. We spoke very frankly, we answered many questions, and I truly believe that we help save lives. So, after almost 2 years of a very complicated state of being, we recognize that self love and self care are of utmost importance. But we also recognize, particularly now with all that we see in the media, that mental health and coping skills are critical to our survival. So it felt like a perfect time to combine our armchair chat with GALentines Day and ask the question, where are girls at? If you remember that song, it's on our website if you want to remember the song, where are girls at? Anyway, but because we understand that more times than not, our female friends really truly help us navigate through life. So we wanted to celebrate that and understand it and reinforce that beautiful privilege we're given. But we're also privileged to have Dr. Roz with us today to strengthen our bonds and help us to understand the value of our female relationships. So thank you, Dr. Roz, for gracing us with your energy, your knowledge, and your expertise. I must also take a quick moment to thank our co-host and community partner, Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, Omicron Upsilon Omega Chapter, and its president, Lisa Bennett. I thank our board of directors for the foundation and our committee who has worked tirelessly on this event. I have a special thank you to our awesome PR team, Chanel Adams and Jasmine Shockness, our technology genius, Conchita Tucker. And I must give a huge thank you to Dr. Tanya Clemens and Valerie Adams Baker Esquire, who championed this event. You will meet these two engaging and brilliant ladies as they are your moderators today. Again, thank you so much for tuning in today. If you're watching us from Facebook Live, invite your friends and your followers to tune in. And remember, go to www.armchairchat.com and register so you can win that wonderful $150 spa card. And most importantly, much love, happy Valentine's and happy GALentines Day.
Thank you, Jen. Good evening, or good afternoon, friends. I am excited, and joining us in our armchair this afternoon is a well-known psychologist, Dr. Rosalind Aker Black, affectionately known as Dr. Roz. She hails from Rome, Georgia, and resides in the Washington, D.C. area with her husband. She received her Bachelor of Arts degree from Fisk University in Nashville, Tennessee, and her doctoral degree in clinical psychology from the American Schools of Professional Psychology at Argosy University in Washington. Dr. Roz is an award-winning psychologist. Some of her awards include the Prince George's County Social Innovation Fund 40 Under 40, the Daily Record's Very Important Professional Under 40, Maryland's Leading Woman Award, and she is the two-time winner of the Daily Record's Top 100 Women in Maryland Award, just to name a few. She has over 14 years of experience in providing clinical psychological services to children, families, and couples, and has worked in nonprofit, government, and private sectors. Currently, she is the Chief Operating Officer for the Goal Grinders Foundation, which is a nonprofit organization that provides leadership and entrepreneurial training in STEM focus for at-risk middle school and high school girls. She teaches clinical and forensic psychology at several universities in the DC area and serves as a subject matter mental health expert to support the Juvenile and Family Residential Management Unit Office of Detention Removal of the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement. She is an expert panel member in the development of the Health Resources and Services Administration, Bright Futures for Women's Health and Wellness Initiative. Dr. Roz has provided psychological consultations on television and radio, including the Anderson Cooper Talk Show, the docuseries Unfaithful, which was on the OWN network, Huffington Post, NBC4, and Howard University's WHUR, where she regularly appears as a relationship expert. She is the series psychologist on TV One's limited series For My Woman and the host of the Dr. Roz Show podcast. She's published in numerous international journals and is the owner of the Dr. Roz Therapeutic and Coaching Services, which helps people function properly in relationships, all relationships. I am honored today to introduce you to a dynamic, bubbly, warm, fun-loving friend, sorority sister, and our speaker for today, Dr. Rosalind Aker-Black. Welcome, Dr. Roz.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited about this conversation today.
We're excited to have you with us today. So at this time, Tanya Clemens is going to join, and we're going to ask you a few questions. But tell us, what do you think about the relationship that we have as women and how important that is to our health?
It's very important. I have 7 best friends. One's a childhood friend, and the other are my best friends that I met in college. And let me just be honest, my life does not work without them. They're my advisory board. They are my accountability partners. They get me in check when I'm beefing with my husband. They're like, Roz, you're overreacting. Like, they serve very different roles in my life. And so I think those female relationships that we have are very healthy, very healthy. It's great to have someone that you can trust, that you can be vulnerable with, and that you can bounce ideas off of. So I love my girlfriends, so much so that every year we do a girls trip. It's typically our homecoming at Fisk University, but it's a time for us to get together and we plan ideas. We have discussion night. We ask each other very heartwarming questions. We really take the time to try to get to know each other more, because as we get older, we change. I'm not the same girl that they met in 1996. I'm a totally different person now. I've had more life experiences now. And so as we get older, our relationships evolve, and we need those relationships to keep us accountable and to keep us healthy.
Well, Dr. Roz, who needs Dr. Oz when we have our very own Dr. Roz, right? We're so excited to have you here. This is going to be a lightly moderated event because we've seen your TED Talks. We know what you can do, right? So we don't want to get in the middle and all of that wisdom you're going to share. But we do have a few questions we want to kind of use to kind of frame the conversation. So one of the questions I have that I'm really, as a psychologist, really want to dig into a little bit more is, I think we've all appreciated the spiritual and emotional role that our relationships with our female friends bring to the party. But I was surprised as I started doing more research, there's actually physiological benefit to having these close, intimate relationships with our female friends. Can you speak a little bit more to what's the physiological value to friendships? I get the emotional, the spiritual, they feed our soul, but the fact that it has impact on our immune system in a positive way, I'm just fascinated by that. So can you share a little bit more about that?
Absolutely. Studies have shown that having a great network of girlfriends can actually lower your blood pressure, can also put you in a space of, it helps with stress management. If I know that if I can go to my girlfriends and have a conversation about, this is what's happening in my life. Sometimes I try to be the strong friend, but right now I'm not the strong friend. I need my friends around me, knowing that I have a support system. Because here's the thing, we all need each other to survive, right? Yeah. And so when you have a very healthy support system, your friends will show up for you. And because you know that you have someone to depend on, the psychological effects of that, of knowing that you have a support system, it lowers your stress, right? And so here's the truth. We can't be anxious and relaxed at the same time. It's biologically impossible. And so if we know that when we're going through a stressful moment, I text with my girlfriends. We text all day long. All day long. We have a group chat. We're on chat all day long. Sometimes my phone is going off and I'm like, I am missing a great conversation. And I'm like, what's happening? But I know in those moments that somebody's discussing something that's going on in their career and they may need like a quick, talk me off the ledge real quick moment. And so that knowing that you have someone that you can go to that is going to help you alleviate some of those issues, reduces the stress that we take on. Knowing that we have someone that we can vent to, who's not going to judge us, that we can be vulnerable with, is amazing. I mean, it reduces those blood pressure issues. It reduces those stress-induced issues. Just knowing that we have a support system that is open and amenable to us and what it is that we may need.
Wonderful. You know what's interesting is the difference between male and female friendships. Men friendships tend to be more transactional, right? Kind of activity based. We hang out, we play basketball, we do those things, right? And they can go, weeks without talking to each other and fall right back in like no big deal, right? Because it's all kind of transactional. Our relationships are very intimate. And they're supposed to be nurtured, right? I mean, if I don't hear from Valerie, like in a week, I'm like, oh, she's mad at me. What's going on? Right? I feel like I'm back in junior high school, right? It's like, oh, I got to check in with Valerie. She's not talking to me. She hasn't texted me. Men, they could it's all transactional, right? But what's interesting about that is because our relationships with one another, it tends to be we're very invested, right? They can be fragile, right? They really do require more nurturing than male relationships. They're a little bit more stable. They're a little bit more easygoing. Well, how do you tell women to nurture these amazing, important relationships and how important it is to maintain that intimacy? And how do we do that when we're all so busy, right? And we have, our other relationships to maintain as well. Just what's unique about the female friendships versus male friendships that we need to pay attention to?
That's a great question, Tanya. And I'm so glad that you asked that question, because what we don't realize, because we aren't taught this as we're growing up. We aren't really taught about friendships, if we're going to be really honest with ourselves. But what we don't realize, and it's interesting that you say that men can get into a fight and then they're cool. They can play a game of pickup basketball and like nothing ever happened.
Exactly.
But with women, we're relationally aggressive. And so what that means is that when we get upset with each other,
I love that phrase.
yeah, the way we break down, the way we are aggressive with our relationships is that we break relationships down. And it starts as early as, kindergarten, right? So here's an example. Being on the playground at recess when you're a kid, and someone will say, if someone gets mad at you, someone will say, "Oh, Roz has the cooties." And by that time, 12 people don't want to talk to you because you have the cooties, right? I mean, we could make it a little bit more realistic. Roz has COVID. 10 people don't want to be around you because they don't want COVID, correct? So that's how we show our aggression. We break down relationships between each other. And so we are relationally aggressive in nature, where, as you said, men are very transactional. They can move on. It's not an issue. But for us, when that relationship is damaged, we have a hard time coming back to the fold, because if I have shared some vulnerability with you about my life, now you've put me in a position where I don't know what you're going to do with that information. I don't know if I can trust you. And so that's very scary, especially if you have shared some really deep secrets with your friend group. And so if there is some dysfunction that may take place, a little relational aggression going on where, say for instance, and I'll use my friends as an example, if 3 of my friends get mad at me out of my 7 best friends, right? That's 3 different relationships that are broken down. Those are 3 different relationships, and they may all be different. They may all be different relationships with an individual person, because you connect with people based on their personality, based on their values, and their relatability. So what you have in common. And so if this is my good girlfriend that I know that I can shoot the breeze with because we're both married, and I can vent to her about my husband, she can vent to me about her husband, and what are we going to do with these men in our lives, that kind of thing. Then you get nervous if the relational aggression has taken place and you guys have had an argument. You get really nervous about, is she going to spill the beans? Like, is she going to tell my secret? So I think understanding how we are aggressive makes us better friends, because we understand what not to do. So I know if I'm upset with someone, I don't triangulate everyone in the group. I don't go try to get other people on my side, right? I'm going to go to the individual person and say, "Hey, you said this. It was really offensive. Can we talk about it?" And then the 2 of you can have an emotionally mature conversation about it, rather than pulling everybody else in to take sides, which can be overwhelming in a friend group. And nobody truly wants to be in the middle of somebody else's mess.
So, Valerie, do you want to jump in? I was going to ask one more question.
No, I was just agreeing with what Raj said. You don't want to triangulate and bring other people into the conflict, and it's better to address the person with whatever issue you're having. I agree with that wholeheartedly.
It's fascinating because as she was describing this, how did you describe it? Aggressive relationships, relationship aggression?
Relationally aggressive.
I love that phrase. And it reminds me, I mean, it does feel like back to grade school and middle school, right? And the mean girls and pitting one against the other. And you can't sit at our table this week because we're mad at you. And it's really, I mean, they're all forms of toxic relationships, right? Male, female, male, male, female, female. How do you identify that this relationship has gone toxic, right? It may have been girlfriends, but something's off and it feels toxic now, right? And you're in the middle of it and you've been investing in it. So it's kind of hard to extract yourself. But what are the warning signs that something's not quite right with this relationship? And how do you know when it's salvageable, and when do you just pull back and protect yourself?
That is a great question, because oftentimes we stay in relationships because of the history, right? We've known each other for 10, 15, 20 years, but how productive has that relationship been? How great of a friendship has it been? Here's the telltale sign that I always tell people. When that relationship no longer serves you, then that might be the time that you need to break away. So if it's not beneficially serving you and it's causing you more stress and harm than good, then at that point you have to protect yourself. And if you've had the conversation with the individual and maybe some of those behaviors are still present, and this person is not really understanding your perspective and what it is that you need, then they're not honoring their role as a friend in your life. That's a very special role. It's so funny because there are a lot of people who think that we're really good friends, and it really is just because of my nature of being a psychologist. I'm just approachable, so people just open up. But if they think about it, if they were really thinking about the relationship, they would see how much I probably don't open up to them, because I got to vet you first before I can ensure that you know anything about my life that I think that I want to share. And so I think sometimes we have to do the vetting process. Even if you've been in the friendship 10, 15 years, you still need to vet that person. And what I mean by that is just asking them questions about, what are your intentions for this friendship? Where do you see this friendship going? How do you think this friendship is working? What are you getting out of this friendship? Is this friendship serving you? The friendship's no longer serving me, and really have a mature conversation about things that are really bothering you. Like I'm not a very confrontational person, and I'm a very smiley person. If you know me, in person, if you know me in real life, I'm a very smiley person. So I always tell people that I may be all smiles, but I am a fierce advocate for myself. And so I think when you are in situations where you feel like it's being toxic, you have to be the advocate for you, because at the end of the day, you know you better than you know the other people. You're the expert on you. You know what you can deal with. You know what feels good to you. You know what doesn't feel good to you. And so I say, listen to your intuition. Our intuition never leaves us astray. I like to think it's God's little voice, whispering in our ear about, maybe this isn't working for you anymore. And then you have to make decisions based off that, based off your intuition.
I, you're on a roll, so my brain's just popping, right? Something else, I love how you're framing this. It's like, just in your male, female, or other intimate kinds of relationships, at some point you have to check in with one another. Like, is this working, right? Because you have to, notion of doing that with your female friendships, I don't think it's foreign to most of us, right? We just kind of go along and let the relationships just kind of linger. But the idea of like, are you getting what you need from me, or am I getting what I need from you? And let's talk about that is really such a mature way to think about such a valuable part of your life, right? And as you're saying, you're like, this is about trust. I'm invested in you. I expect you to be invested in me. I'm sharing things that would not share otherwise. And I have to trust that you're going to treat that with reverence, right? And if any little funny feeling in my tummy that's saying something else, we need to talk about that.
Yeah.
That's beautiful advice.
Yeah. I always say observe. If they're talking about somebody else when that person leaves the room, chances are they've had a conversation about you as well. And so if you've seen that person's behavior and you're not holding them accountable for it, you're not being a good friend.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I like about my friend circle is that we check each other, and there's no animosity with it. It's just like, come on, that's not really cool. I hate confusion, and I don't like chaos, and I don't want to be in the midst of any craziness. That does not work for me. And I don't want to be in a space where I have to choose whether I have this conversation with you, or I go out with you, or I continue to hang out with you because your behaviors have alienated someone else. All my friends know that I am friends with different pockets of people. And so we absolutely, you're probably just going to get along because I'll create something, or I have an event where we all have to be together, and you have to get along in that space, because I don't like conflict. And I think as we get older, we recognize that it is important to set boundaries in our friendships and in our relationships. There are some friends I know that I can have conversations with, and there are some friends that I know, like, yeah, she's not going to be open to this conversation. So know the boundaries of your friendship and know what it is that know what is the relatability in your friendship. And I think we don't think about that. This is someone that's just fun to hang out with, but there is something that is drawing you to that individual that you're relating to. So what is that? And that is the core of your friendship, whatever that relatability factor is. And so that is what you nurture.
Yeah.
Those are the things that you nurture, whatever that relatability factor is.
But Dr. Roz, where does kind of like teasing and venting with one another come in, right? Like Val and I at brunch, I'm like, that dress Lisa had on was crazy yesterday. Did you see Lisa yesterday? Right? And we're kind of laughing, but I would say the same thing to Lisa to her face, like, Lisa, what are you thinking, girl? Right? So it's not mean girlish. It's kind of like fun. We tease each other, and it's just, but it's a fine line sometimes where that mean girl thing can slip, can tilt over to that side versus kind of just fun and teasing and laughing at each other. So you have to really be sensitive to that possibility, because as you're saying, who wants to be in a relationship where you're saying something behind someone's back that you're not going to say to their face, right? And it's not, and it's mean, the difference between mean-spirited kind of poking at someone and truly, just kind of teasing and lighthearted, right? And that's when you have to really check yourself and check each other, like, wait a minute, what's that comment again? I thought Lisa was kind of cute, actually, right? But it is kind of that, it's fun sometimes to kind of tease each other, but it has to be in the right spirit. So that's something we have to watch as women. That's when that middle school girl comes out again sometimes, right?
And I think, some like my favorite phrase when I don't want to give an opinion about something, so where it could ever come back and say, well, Roz said this. My favorite phrase is, child, ain't got nothing to say. Or bless her heart, so you have to find ways to save yourself.
To kind of deflect, right?
Yeah, in those situations, because it's human nature to have a conversation about others, right? It is human nature. And I'm not going to say that we don't do it. We do it, but you're right. It's the way in which it is done.
Yeah.
It is the way in which, so with your example, then Val knows that that's just your personality, that you will go into Lisa. So, for me, it's important for my friends to know what my character is. And it's important for them to know the boundaries of what it is that I will and will not do. And so because they know who you are, they don't see it possibly as mean girls. They're just like, you know what? That dress was kind of interesting. Maybe, I'm gonna ask her where she got it from.
Bless her heart.
Yeah, there's a difference. That dress was kind of interesting, child. I can wear it, but she looked good in it. Go ahead, girl. That kind of thing. That's a difference than like, girl, she looked a hot mess. I don't know why she wore that dress. That's the mean girl. And so I think when we understand the difference, and again, that's where that relational aggression comes in, right? So it's like, if I were to go on the mean girl side and I'm like, she looked horrible. She knows she never should have worn that dress. That dress was hiked up all the way in the back. And just, if I went on a tangent like that, then I am showing you that, one, maybe I don't respect her. Maybe I don't respect that friendship, right? And maybe I'm not interested in maintaining that friendship, unfortunately. So I think we have to be in tune with how we show up in the friendship. And I always tell people this: in order for you to have amazing friendships, you have to be a great friend.
That's so true. So, Dr. Roz, what advice would you give to someone who really wants to have a friendship with some female person, male, but really we're talking about females, but they have a problem communicating it, or they have a problem just being friendly, showing themselves friendly? What advice would you give to someone who's seeking a connection, but they can't really connect?
That's a great question. Especially now that we're coming out of COVID, people are so socially inept because we don't know what to do. I'm a hugger by nature. So when I see you, I just want to hug you. But now in these COVID days, I can't do that, right? So it's the fist bump or whatever. But people are really struggling with the idea of sometimes how to connect with others. Here's what I've always done. I always do service first. So I give something to show my value in a friendship or in a relationship. I'm a giver by nature. So I give something. So say for instance, you are looking for a new hairdresser, right? I always hate this when women do this. They have on a cute outfit. And you're like, girl, where you get that from? And they don't want to tell you because they don't want you looking like them. I'm like, my light is not going to dim your light. We both can shine. I'm not going to dress like you. I don't see you every day. I'm not going to dress like you every single day. So I think being a giver opens the door for people to see and trust you. And it opens the pathway to a friendship. And so a giver of resources, a giver of connection. I like to call myself a connector. I like to connect people. If I know that you're great at doing something and somebody needs that service, then I don't have a problem with putting you and that person in touch with each other. And that's another great way to show, because it doesn't look like, and the reason why I say give service first, because it doesn't look like you're just trying to take something from the friendship, but that you are willing to give to the friendship as well. Because so many of us, because of traumas that we've experienced, in our childhood and, when we've tried to have friendships, so many of us are just not trusting of people. And so those barriers, they show up and we don't even realize it. We're functioning in that trauma and don't even realize that we are functioning in this trauma of abandonment, in this trauma of rejection, that we have these walls up and people may want to be our friends. People may want to get to know us, but we're so standoffish that people are like, I'm cool on her. So I think if you show up as a giver, then it breaks down those barriers of people feeling like, well, why she want to be my friend? She's just she just wants to climb the social ladder. She's an opportunist, but if you're giving something, then people can't put those labels on you.
I thought that was a great question, Val, because so many of us move around these days, much more so than our parents' generation, right? You're in a new city, new part of the world, and it's harder to form friendships as adults, right? Many of our friendships, as you say, go back to grade school, to college. Those are kind of our tight friendships, and it's really hard. So this notion of giving as an opening to forming new friendships as we age, as we move around and move in new circles is great advice to share. So that was a beautiful gift you just gave us in terms of how do you begin to form new relationships as adults. You no longer have your kids, play group parents to get to know, and we just have fewer opportunities as we're busy running around, kind of living our lives. So that was great advice. I think, Valerie, do you think we have ready for a few questions from the
Yes,
audience?
I think we do have some questions. Please share. The first one comes from Kyla, and she asks, can we talk about the importance of balancing friendships and romantic relationships? I've noticed that women tend to invest way more time in a romantic relationship than platonic ones. Great question.
That is a great question, Kyla. So here's the truth. I love my girlfriends and I call them my soulmates. They are my soulmates. And I love my husband. And he understands the friendship that we have. I think once you get that your paramour, your significant other on board with the significance of your friendships, then it's not a balance. It's not a struggle anymore. But so prime example, Friday nights used to be our date night. But when the pandemic hit, several of my best friends are single. So they live by themselves. And so just in conversation, we noticed that the isolation was getting to them, and so we use this app called Duo that you can just download on your phone. And sometimes we're on the Duo call on Friday night for 2 hours, 6 hours. We've been on 6 hours before. It's been the whole next day before, but we're just talking. And my husband recognizes that I need those things myself. And so and here's the thing, when you get into these relationships, again, it's the relatability factor. When you get into these relationships, you have to understand what the relationship is, what is the core of the relationship, and what is keeping you together. My husband is a homebody, and I am a social butterfly. So he is very okay and understands that I need people like I need air. I need to have conversations. I need to be around people. Like that is something that sustains me. So when I always tell people are always like, your husband allows you to do this. First, my first is like, allow, but then I'm like, no, he knows who he married. I've been this social butterfly the whole time we dated. Like he knows who he married. So he has no issues in terms of me being around my friend group. And so now, we do friend vacations together for our 40th birthdays. My besties and our husbands, we all went to Hawaii to celebrate our 40th birthday. That's another way to make the connection, to kind of disrupt the struggle with the balance, I think. But when the person that you're in a relationship with, when they understand what those friend groups mean to you, my husband knows that my friends love him just as much as they love me. And I think that makes a difference because he knows that they care about us as a unit, and they are willing to support us as a unit. And so I think that makes the difference. And what may help with that imbalance with friendships and romantic relationships, unless you're the young lady, once you get into a relationship, you forget about your friends. Like that's problematic. There are some people who do that. They become so consumed with the man in their life, which is not a problem because at the end of the day, a man can do some things that the woman can't do. So it makes sense if you're trying to build, if you're trying to have a life with this individual, but you can't just put your friends on the back burner. You still need to recognize what those friendships are, and you still need to nurture those friendships.
Yes.
Because if you break up with dude, who's going to be there for you?
Right.
Your girlfriend. So you need to nurture those friendships in the process.
Dr. Ross, would you even say it's maybe a tad concerning if you're in a relationship and he's controlling and seriously jealous of your female friendships and want to cut things off with those friends? Isn't that kind of a little sign that something is not quite right?
Yeah, he's trying to isolate you in that moment. And so you should be very aware of that because anybody that's trying to get you in isolation, what is the purpose? What is the intent? That's not a great place to be. And so, yeah, that is absolutely a red sign, a red flag, something to draw your attention to. And if your girlfriends see it and they're trying to tell you, they're not jealous. They love you and they want to make sure you are safe because something's not right. So they're just checking in on you to ensure that you are okay. Sometimes we get in this mentality that, oh, she's just jealous because she ain't got a man. No, 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 no. That's not it. They are checking in because you obviously have changed. There's a change in your behavior. And when there's a change in your behavior, your friends will probably notice it before your family members. And so you want to ensure that you have great friends around who who knows what's really going on. I have girlfriends now when they go on dates, they send me a picture of the guy, they send me all his information because if something happens, I need to be able to track this dude down and say she was last seen with him or she went out on a date with him. And so you need friends in your friend circle like that. And so that is Dr. Tanya, that's a very great point. If he's isolating you, that is a red flag because what is his intent? Why does he not want you to have friends? Why is he manipulating your time? And time manipulation is another red flag of someone trying to control your behavior and control what you do. They're manipulating your time. They don't want you around your friends. They don't want you around. They don't want you doing things with your friends. What is the purpose of that? And so in any relationship that you are in, look for the intentions. What are the intents of these individuals?
Good. We have one other question from Conchita, and she asked if you could talk about managing different kinds of friend groups. Sometimes your work friends don't necessarily gel with your college friends.
That is so true. So here's the funny thing. I have I have a couple of friends. They're like, Roger, always picking up strays. But here's the truth. I'm Southern, so I never meet a stranger. I talk to everybody. My husband will not go to Walmart with me now because he's like, I don't understand how we can go in for one thing and then 5 hours later you've had 12 different conversations with 12 different people. You know their whole life story, you know their social security number. Like, I'm a talker, and so because I like to get along with everyone, I feel like everybody should get along. So ways that you can manage that is like be direct. Like, what is your issue with this individual? Like, what is it about her that doesn't work for you? I mean, because it could be personality, it could be anything. It could be your college friends may feel like, is this person trying to take you away from them? And that's a great opportunity to have a conversation about our friendship is independent, outside of this individual. So nobody's going to take my friendship away from you unless you decide to do something that will wreck our friendship. So I think, and this does happen, what we've kind of done in the past, because we brought some of our friends to homecoming when it's our girls' weekend. And, what has happened in my friend group is that we have conversations about those people in advance. So you know who's who, what's what. You understand what is important in that person's life, why they matter to you, to your friend. And so at that point, if that is your friend, you don't want to be the one to wreck a friendship. Like, if you are being a true, genuine friend, you aren't going to do anything that is going to cause severe consequences of losing that friendship. And so I think it's just a point of having a conversation and just asking, why does this person bother you so much?
Point. Do we have another question? Oh, here we are. We have a question from Jaquetta, and she says, are there perils to friendship imposed by social media? And do you have any suggested safeguards?
That's a great question, and I'm addicted to social media. I hate to say it, I am. And I've met so many people on social media who think we're like best friends and we're not. But it's just because I'll communicate with them, I have conversations with them. So I'm always offended when I get a Facebook call and messenger from somebody on Facebook, and I'm like, I don't know you like that. Like, if we know each other, you have my personal number, right? So I'm always like, why is this person calling me? Like, that to me, it's kind of problematic. It's almost like somebody showing up at your house and not telling you that they're coming, right? So, or seeing if it's okay for them to come. So yeah, there are some perils, because especially on Facebook, people can go through your pictures, they can go through your events, and they can look at your life and figure out, oh, this person can help me advance, right? And so you always have to try to figure out what is the motive behind this person wanting to be so close to me. And I ask, I don't have a problem saying, what are your intentions? What are your intentions? How are you? Nice to meet you. What can I do for you? What are your intentions? I don't have a problem with that. And, if they give a good enough answer, then maybe we can communicate as friends. But if not, then I'm like, okay, thank you. It's nice to meet you. Nice to know you. But people will, people will, people will try to associate it. This happened to me, and it almost felt like Single White Female. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that movie, but a young lady friended me, and the next thing I know, we didn't have any friends in common. The next thing I know, her whole friend list is my friend list. So she used her friendship with me to connect with other people. Now, again, I'm a connector. If you just ask, I'll do an introduction for you. But to do something so conniving as that was very problematic for me. And then I realized I just had to kind of like remove her off my friends list and block her, because funny enough, my second oldest sister and I, we look a lot alike. So people get us confused all the time. My sister was doing an event in Chicago, I believe. And so she sends me a message and she's like, can I go to the event with you? And I'm like, I have no idea what you're talking about. I'm not going anywhere near Chicago. It's wintertime. You will never catch me in Chicago in the winter, okay? So I was like, what are you talking about? And she's like, this event you're doing. I'm like, that's not me. That's my sister. And how do you know my sister? Like, you haven't had any connection with my sister. I have not connected you to. How do you know my sister? But then so she looks through my sister's Facebook Live and she's like, oh, okay, I want to be connected to her. It was very eerie. It was very single white female. It was very, very eerie. So you do have to be very careful about, I don't want to say people trying to copy your life, but people trying to take advantage of situations because people think they're connected to you. And I had no idea until another friend reached out to me and she's like, the only reason why I accepted her friendship is because her friend request is because I saw that you were a mutual friend. So I thought that she was decent or cool or whatnot, but she's crazy. And I was like, yes, I've experienced that. And I was like, I'm sorry. So I had to go on an apology tour to people that she, had an experience with, that they only accepted her friend request because they saw that we were friends. So there are some perils with social media, and you do have to be careful about that.
Yeah, I had a similar experience with that, with a man who was friends with someone in my college alumni network. So I thought he had gone to college with me. I couldn't remember. And then he was trolling for dates with my friends and my cousins. And I had to cut him off, and then tell them, cut him off. I don't know who that man is.
Exactly.
So you do have to be very careful. We have another question from Adna Loy, and she asked, how do you cope with women who want to be a friend, but they don't have a relationship or a conversation or even love for their own biological sisters?
That is, that's interesting. So you can play that one or two ways. They can become an associate, right? You don't have to delve in and give them all your vulnerabilities as you would a friend. And then you could encourage and do some investigation, like what's going on with your bio family? What's the issue there? I never understand it. I have three older sisters, and we're all very, very, very close, even though they're all in Georgia, and I'm here in the DC area. But when we get together, our time is precious. And so I cannot imagine not speaking to my sisters for any reason. Like, there is no reason that I would not be in communication with my family. Like, no reason on God's green earth, like, that I would not be in communication with my sisters. And so I never understand when people don't talk to their family. And I understand that people can be toxic. I understand that family members can be abusive. I get that. I get that quite naturally, and that some people are doing it to protect self. But I also feel like if you can't work out the issues in your own by your family, they're going to carry over in your other relationships. And so you have to be in a space of where, because we're so used to doing emotional cutoffs, right? You do me wrong and I'm done. So many people I hear say that. And I'm like, but emotional cutoffs are not healthy. They're not healthy, because if you never resolve the conflict, it will follow you from one relationship to the next. And so you got to get to the core of an issue of why you are cutting this person off, recognize what that toxicity must have looked like, recognize why you were drawn to that, and then make sure when you get into your other friend groups that that is not the energy that you bring to that relationship, and that you know what those triggers are, and that you know what those red flags look like. And so I encourage those individuals who are experiencing someone as such to encourage them to speak to their family members, get that relationship going. It's always heartbreaking when I hear families have broken down, because it's like, okay, what's the trauma story? There's some trauma there for you to just emotionally cut somebody off, and you don't, somebody that you share blood with, that you don't want to be bothered with them again. What is the trauma there? So sometimes my friends hate talking to me because I become Dr. Roz and I'm not their friend. And so they're like, I didn't want a therapy session, but I can't cut the two off sometimes. So it's very unfortunate.
These biological relationships are so interesting because, my sisters and my adult nieces are my best friends, right? So I'm like you, I cannot imagine, right? But what's interesting also, it's not just sister to sister. The research on sisters and brothers, how brothers who have sisters and have good relationships with their sisters actually are healthier, and both emotionally and physically. So that whole biological sibling thing is so core to your ability to build other relationships. So it does go back to the family again and again. I mean, that's your whole background, so you know that very well. But the connection between having a sister for a man and how important that is in terms of his health was striking to me as well.
Yeah.
But we do have some more questions. I want to get to that. Valerie, do you want to get to the next question? It was a really good one. It's about, I'll just go ahead to the rest. It's
Okay.
about,
You going to take it, Tanya?
you can go ahead.
All right. So this question is from Umi, and she asks, how can we help our daughters heal from friendship betrayal? Oh, this is good. It hurts me to hear young women say, I can't be friends with women.
I hate hearing that too, because what is stopping you from being friends with? What is what trauma took place that has made you see all women as the bad person? Like what has gotten in the way? And so for our daughters who are dealing with this friendship betrayal is not easy. And some people may think I have an out of the box idea of how to heal from betrayal, but the first thing you have to recognize is that sometimes it's not about you. It's that individual. It's maybe something that they're dealing with that has nothing to do with you. And so that person may need to deal with whatever their situation is. It has nothing to do with you. The second thing is that you may want to reframe the situation, like what happened? How could it have been resolved? And see their perspective on what may have happened. Sometimes it's hard for us to see the roles that we play in the breakdown of our friendships, but sometimes you got to be really honest with yourself about, what did I do? How did I help this friendship break down in this way? And apologize for the things that you have done. I mean, again, like I said, we all can be relationally aggressive. And Dr. Tanya, to your point, with your example about Lisa and the dress, now that could have, and not that Sorval would do this, but that could have gone back to Lisa in such a way that she's like, oh my God, I thought you were my girl. You were dogging me out. You were talking about me. And it may not have been the case at all, if that makes sense. It may have just been a very flippant conversation. Another thing is that when it comes to betrayals, sometimes, again, it's not about you. You may just be a casualty of war. And it may be about that other person. And so sometimes you can't take some things that happen personal unless it personally happened to you, like they personally took money out your pocket, unless they personally, did something that affected you personally. You might just be a casualty of war. But in a healing plan that I do with my clients, I have them look at the core issue of, how did this betrayal affect you? Right? And so being very honest about, did it affect my thinking? Did it affect my feelings, my emotions? Did it affect my behavior? And if it affected those three things, then now the work is on you to get over it, right? And I call this the CAB effect. So the C stands for cognitions, which are our thought processes. It's how we take in information, it's how we think. And the A stands for affect, which is our emotions. And the B simply stands for behavior. So whatever we think influences how we feel, and what we think and what we feel influences how we behave. So, negative thoughts, negative feelings, negative behavior. Positive thoughts, positive feelings, positive behavior. So, I say that in terms of getting over the betrayal. Sometimes you have to think about it very differently. You have to reframe the situation, see it from their perspective, understand the role that you could have possibly played in it, and recognize and right your wrong, basically. So those are some things that you can do to move past a betrayal in friendship. Is really focusing on your cab effect. Like, how is this really affecting me? What are the core issues? How is this showing up in my life? And what we don't realize is that we all have a choice, right? We all have a choice of what we think. We all have a choice of how we feel, and we all have a choice of how we behave. No one can make you feel any kind of way unless you allow them to. If you allow someone to make you feel a certain way, you've given away your power. It is simply a choice. We control our emotions. If we struggle with controlling our emotions, meaning that we're impulsive and meaning that we lash out and um, we're not logical in our thinking, we emotionally react, then that might be a great sign that you might need to seek professional help if you're unable to control your emotions. But if nothing else, I want you to understand today is that you have a choice in how you show up in this world, how you think, how you feel, and how you behave. You have a choice over that. And so you have to have the power over your choice. You have to have the wherewithal to recognize what you are experiencing and how that's showing up in your world.
That's awesome. Thank you, Dr. Rise. You have given us so many pearls of wisdom to think about how to maintain and secure relationships and to value those relationships and honor ourselves and get other people to respect, our feelings. So thank you so much for all you've shared with us today. At this time, I'd like to bring on the president of Omicron Upsilon Omega chapter, Lisa Bennett. Lisa, the floor is yours.
Since y'all have talked about my dress, I guess I should go ahead and jump on here. This was totally amazing. I was trying to interact on the chapter and foundation site, and I got so wrapped up in one point in the conversation. The moderators were excellent, great draw into the conversation. Dr. Raj, you obviously have perfected this relationship space and really helped us give us some great nuggets of wisdom. So I want to thank you and thank the moderators for an amazing afternoon before we all go watch some football, which I'm a big football fan. I'm from the South as well. All four of us actually are from the South. So Southern girls are representing. So I want to thank everyone who dropped in, watched the program. Again, thank you, Dr. Roz, for an amazing conversation. And everyone can, Dr. Roz, if you in the private will drop your site. I know you have your there. If you drop your site, then folks can check you out and continue the conversation and learn more from you. So if you give us do that for us. Again, I am Lisa Bennett, the president of Omicron Upsilon Omega. And one of my the chapter's best girl pal is the Culture Pro Foundation. They are our sister friends. We work collaboratively together. They have brought you this amazing program with the leadership of Valerie and Tanya as the GALentine gals, and really thinking about what's important and how can we be healthier as we go into this new year. So thank you to the Culture Pro Foundation and to our moderators and hosts and our conversationalists. So hopefully everyone has a great evening. Omicron Upsilon Omega continues to bring you all great programs with our true friend, the Culture Pro Foundation. We could not do it without their great work and their collaborative effort. So everyone enjoy the game. I don't know who you're rooting for. And thank you for giving us an hour of your football Sunday. Have a great one, ladies.
Lisa, do you want to tell us about the winner of the drawing?
Well, I guess I do, but I was trying to keep it to myself so that I could get the spa package. The winner of today's gift is Janice Burks. Janice Burks will be enjoying a wonderful day at the spa. Jen Distance, the president of Omicron Upsilon Omega, will be getting in touch with you, Janice, and letting you know how to claim your gift or how she can mail it to you. So look out for that very soon. Thank you so much, Valerie. I completely forgot. Right,
Thank
everyone have a great
you.
day.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you, ladies, for having me.